What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Brought to you again from my guest home, my new house. I'm just realizing you can even see the edge of my daughter's pack and play in the back, but here we go. Now, I know I've spoken many times on this channel about how to increase your income in private practice, as well as how I scaled my income past 6 figures as a therapist working part-time. But there's so much more to financial stability than just making money. In fact, I know therapists with multiple 6-figure businesses who still have not achieved financial stability, and I also know therapists who earn less than 6 figures who are thriving in a financially stable and healthy place. So in this video, I'm going to share my own opinions about what factors I think contribute to financial stability so that hopefully you can achieve financial health as well, no matter what your income level is. And if we haven't met yet, welcome to Private Practice Skills. I'm Dr. Marie Fang, psychologist in private practice. I post videos offering tools I learned the hard way about starting and growing private practice so that you don't have to. And I know that one of the many reasons why folks decide to go into private practice is that maybe they're hoping to earn a certain type of income that they weren't able to access working for somebody else. And for many folks, they might get to the point where they earn that income and they still haven't achieved a sense of financial stability. But before we get too far into it, let's define what financial stability is. Again, as I said, it's not about how much money you make, but about how much flexibility you have so that you're financially prepared for both the good times and the bad times. The Federal Reserve defines financial stability as a financial system that can function in good times and bad and can absorb all the good and bad things that happen in the US economy at any moment. Basically, I interpret that in layman's terms as just you're financially stable if you can tolerate the downs as well as the ups. So if a big crisis comes your way, a health scare, something that costs a chunk of money, you're able to withstand it, and you're also able to kind of retire at a reasonable age while maintaining a reasonable lifestyle. So answering the question from the title of this video, is it possible for therapists to be financially stable? Absolutely, 100% yes. And it's also possible to have a lot of money, but still be financially unstable. So here are a few of my tips for how I think you can go about achieving financial stability. Now, my first tip here is going to, one, feel obvious and also maybe counterintuitive to everything that I just said, but it's income. If you can increase your income, you're gonna have a much easier time increasing your financial stability than if your income is static. I mean, if we imagine that somebody was making $30K a year and they're trying to raise a family, they're gonna have a much tougher time reaching a goal of financial stability than somebody who's making, say, $100K a year. I think it's also safe to say that for most folks in most situations, it's much easier to increase your income than it is to leverage some of the other tools that I'm gonna name after this in this video. So that's why I name income as the first tip here, because I know for a lot of folks, you're getting underpaid in the work that you do, especially given how much student debt you may have accrued over time, and trying to do the life things that the majority of people are trying to do that require money. So if you're able to increase your income, I think for a lot of folks, that might be all it takes to achieve financial stability. The second tip may also feel very obvious, but I will elaborate, and that is to spend less than you make. I mean, a lot less than you make. Okay, this is clearly obvious. If you spend more money than you're making or the same amount of money that you're making, you're not going to achieve financial stability without making some significant change. But the reason why I'm saying you need to spend a lot less than you make is because a lot of people forget to factor all the different things that come out of our income, and we think we're making more money than is actually sitting in our pockets at the end of the day. So you might think you're spending less money than you make, but you might actually be spending money that you don't have. Let me give you an example. So let's say you're a therapist in private practice, you're earning $100,000 a year in client revenue. Kudos, good for you. That takes a lot of hard work to get there. Now, before you run off and, spend $80,000 of it and save $20,000 and call it good, we need to subtract some things from that $100,000 first. First, we need to consider your business-related expenses. So let's say you spend about $20,000 on business expenses every year. That takes you to $80,000. And then we also have to factor in taxes, which varies depending on where you live. But if you live where I live and you're making about $80,000 after your expenses, you're probably going to spend something like $20,000 on your yearly taxes. So now we're at $60,000. And if you have kids like I do, you might have to pay for someone to take care of those kids while you're working those hours so you can make that money. And I don't know about where you live, but where I live in California, childcare is like doubled since the pandemic. So I'm gonna be gracious and lowball this, because this is less than I spend on part-time childcare for my 2 kids, but let's say you also spend $20,000 a year on childcare. Now you're down to $40,000. You now have $40,000 a year that you can spend on your life, on your housing, on your food, on your kids, on your travel, and also to save from, so that hopefully someday you don't have to keep working, and also that you have a rainy day fund. So whenever that emergency expense pops up, you have a little stockpile available to withdraw from. So as you can see, if you're the therapist in this situation, thinking it's totally cool if you throw down $80,000 on your various life expenses, by the end of the year, you're gonna find yourself coming up short. And this is unfortunately the story of so many people, especially once like tax season rolls around. You think, wait a minute, now I owe what? I don't even have that sitting in my bank account. Most folks, when they do this exercise, find that in order to kind of fit within this type of budget, they're gonna have to radically change their spending. So if you're able to make those radical kind of changes, by all means, go for it. But I'll repeat something that I said earlier, and most people find it a lot easier to go about finding ways to increase their income rather than ways to constrict their spending. So if there's any way to go about increasing your income and keeping your spending the same, then you can still reach the same kind of financial stability. Tip number 3 piggybacks on what I just shared, and that's to be disciplined, especially early on, if I'm catching you early enough to listen to this. Now, this tip is really challenging because there's an irony here that the best time to save money in your 20s is usually when we're making the least amounts of money. I know this is so challenging because amongst my friends, therapist colleagues, and really I think just kind of culturally in the US, we kind of financially write off our 20s. I mean, not like a tax write-off, but we just assume we're not gonna be saving a bunch of money in our 20s because we can barely figure out how to pay our student loans, let alone pay our actual bills. And so for a lot of folks in their 20s, they're accruing debt. And then in our 30s, we might be focusing on trying to increase our income so that we can hopefully pay down some of the debt. And then somewhere around our 40s, it kind of hits us like, oh shoot, I really need to be saving money if I don't want to be working forever. And then it feels like if only I had any way to start doing that like 20 years ago. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds about the details around saving and investing your money. I do have a video where I go over planning for retirement in private practice, so I'll link to that video where I name this in more detail. And tip number 4, spend money on what matters to you today, like right now. Now, I know this sounds completely counter to all the things I just shared about budgeting and saving and being disciplined, but we're human. And if we spend all of our efforts and energies related to constraining our spending habits, then it's just not sustainable. It's like the ultimate case of delayed gratification for like 30, 40 more years. And what happens for a lot of people is because looking at finances more closely can feel so scary, what a lot of people do is they kind of spend a little bit indiscriminately, a little bit less intentionally, without knowing how much money is really coming in or going out of their account. So if you are able to take a moment and really reflect on what are the types of spending that really give me a sense of joy in life, really offer me something meaningful or productive, where are those spaces? And sometimes it might be kind of expensive, but if it's offering you a joy and sense of meaning right now, it is worth spending your money on it. Now, you'll probably find that if you take a closer look at your bank account, you might not be spending your money in all of those places that really offer you some meaning. There might be places where money is just kind of leaking out of your account that's not really helping you be happier or more joy-filled or anything really useful to you. So I encourage you to sit down, take a look at your finances, get rid of those expenses that aren't adding anything in your life, and allow yourself the freedom to intentionally choose into things that do cost money, that offer you something meaningful and joyful. Now, for the purposes of today's video, I think I'm gonna leave off just at these 4 tips. Obviously, there are way more tips that you can utilize to increase your financial stability as well as your financial health. But I think these 4 tips are probably challenging enough that for most people, if you just follow through on these, it will make a world of a difference. And of course, if you are really interested in digging deeper and learning all about how to have more stability in your finances, I encourage you to consult with a financial advisor who can take a personalized look at your specific financial situation, offer tailored recommendations, and also have a sense of kind of what your values and your lifestyle are so that everything kind of fits your needs. But for now, if nothing else, I hope that this video really illuminated for you that it is possible to have financial stability as a therapist, or honestly, whatever kind of profession you might be in. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included for free for all of its users, so it covers all of your practice management needs. Now, if you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, wherever you might be in your therapist journey, I hope you found this video encouraging and helpful in your path to financial wellness as a therapist. And if you have had success stories with kind of building financial stability, feel free to leave some tips in the comments that you found helpful to kind of help you get there so that other people can glean from your wisdom. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. Jet planes. This is part of my life now. Instead of hearing neighbors, I hear planes. Oh, we got the FedEx truck and jet number 4. The jets knew I was filming right now, and that's when they decided to all come out.